So, morning fellow fast lunatics, how are you? It's early as usual. Hence the coffee. So, cheers. Um, the weather has settled a bit there now. So hopefully the water is not as murky as it was. Although to be honest, I don't mind fishing in murky water. It doesn't really bother me. I still catch plenty of fish. A slight change of tactics sometimes. But I had that big fish there last week. Was that this week? That was in murky water. Every cast, the surface door was coming back with weed on it, you know. Now, granted, I'd only made 2 casts. On the third cast, the whole thing just exploded. I must have landed it literally on the fish's head, and he just nailed it. And it was this fella here. I use egg claw. Can't be got at the minute, but they'll be back. Just absolutely beautiful. Now, whilst I do believe that colour makes a bit of difference, like I fish all the Z claws. I fish the mackerel, the dark mackerel. I fish the ghost lacon. I fish the light wacka, dark wacka. You know, actually sometimes sometimes the light wacka in really clear water is very, very effective. And slightly murkier water, the dark wacka is very effective. Because it just gives that dark profile, right? So if you have murky water, like for instance, a black lure will stand out more than a white lure, right? Because if you can get something that's darker than the water that it's in, it will be visible to the fish. But the fish are primarily feeding on vibration, I think, in that kind of murk, so you don't have to worry. And it doesn't mean that you can't fish straight baits either, you know, because they jerk, right? And that jerking motion, that's what triggers the fish, right? I will tell you a little trick of mine. So if I arrive to a spot and I think there are fish there, I'll take a lure and I'll just cast it out, any kind of paddle tail, like a Pays minnow or whatever, and I'll rip it through, right? Just rip it through really fast, just to get their attention. And then they're kind of switched on and they're looking around, and then I'll make a cast with a soft plastic, like such as the power slide, right? So this is what a power slide looks like when it's gone wrong, right? It might be hard to pick up on the camera, but there's a little bit of flashing. You can see just a little bit of stuff on the side of the lure there, right? So I'll keep that for myself, right? I wouldn't be able to sell that. I wouldn't sell it in that condition. But I guarantee it will make absolutely no difference to the action of the lure. I'll just run the scalpel along the sides of it. It'll be absolutely fine. So I'm going to fish that this morning. I'm going to fish it with the Halco estuary scent, which is on its way back in. Now, anybody who thinks that's a gimmick needs to go off and rethink it. I've seen it in action. It's absolutely incredible. I've gotten these guys in that I showed you, right? So those are the Raid Battle Hogs. Raid Japan are just a fantastic company. I mean, look at the amount of moving parts on that lure. Like, set on the right offset hook. Like, just look at it. Like, it's gonna flap around and drop down through the water, and those claws are gonna be flapping around and everything. And a bass is going to instinctively investigate what is that. And to my mind, it looks more like a shrimp than a crab, right? And they love shrimp. I mean, years ago, live baiting for bass with shrimp was a big thing, right? You'd absolutely murder them. But the live shrimp. So we're going to give that fella a good run. I'm not a huge fan of creature bait fishing. I find it a little boring. I don't have the patience. My head goes too fast. You know, I want to keep moving. I want to keep looking and exploring, and you know, I'm just that type of angler, right? But I did get in. If you haven't fished the Astory 130, you're absolutely missing out, right? So it is essentially what they call a search bait, right? So the intention of the Astory was primarily for boat anglers, but to search all around them to find the bass, right? Really fly it across the surface of the water. You'd be amazed at how fast you can fish it and induce a strike. I have it there in matte white as well. I wanted to show you. Now, what has fallen off altogether are these guys, the Raid Fantastics. Nobody seems to be buying them. So I'm going to make it my business to go out and catch a couple of big fish on those just to prove a point. They are absolutely exceptional lures. Like, they're just fantastic. And it's such a pity to see them just sitting there. As I said yesterday, we got a big shipment of, not a big shipment, but a shipment of X-layers that I put on special offer. I mean, just let me show you some of the colours. Like, absolutely beautiful. Like, all of these colours will catch, right? All of them. But look at that. And they're on the site for €12. That's the best value you're going to get in the country, right? You're not going to get any better than that. Now, I have a new site on the way, which will make me competitive in the UK market, because it will take the VAT off for me, right? To do it manually is an impossible. It's too big a task. I'm just a one-man band. I'm guiding 4 days a week. I'm making lures. I'm running a website. I'm going to the post office, and I'm caring for an elderly parent. I just don't have the time. So I've managed to make enough money and get, hopefully, get the local enterprise office to invest in my business and build me a proper website, so you'll be able to search by brand, by type of lure. You know, you'll have much better search bars. The products will be more accessible. There'll be more pictures. You'll be able to book guiding online. You'll be able to do all the things that I want the site to do. So I'm really excited about it. I'm just like, I'm pinching myself. Like, one, I got my health back, you know, which is just the most important thing, right? A big shout out to anybody who has long COVID. I'm not going to mention any names, but somebody regularly contacts me about his wife Karen, who's suffering, and I just want to say good morning, Karen. I hope you have a good day. I know what you're going through, and you hold fast, because you can do it. I know when you're in it, it seems like you can't. You know, there was days I felt like giving up. You know, there was days I just felt I can't do any more of this, you know. And you see, before long COVID, there were people who had myalgic encephalitis, right? Post-viral myalgic encephalitis. And like ourselves, they were not believed, right? They were gaslit and, you know, told at the doctors it's all in your head and all the rest of it. And I just saw last week that they've had a massive breakthrough in the study of myalgic encephalitis. And I was delighted, because there are people who are literally just in the bed, right? So while we were clapping all the nurses, right, they were all developing long COVID. And those nurses, lots of them now, are totally debilitated. And the clapping has long since stopped, and nobody's looking after them. The government hasn't initiated some payment scheme for them or any kind of protection for them or anything. So it's like these are girls and fellas that risked their lives in the height of the pandemic, that went into absolutely COVID ridden wards to care for people who were dying, you know. I find the pandemic, when I look back on it, the strangest thing ever. The human capacity to just blank from your mind the fact that, geez, we just lost millions of people, like millions, you know. But it has done for me, it has made life very, very precious, like, and it's made my time with my dad very, very precious. Like, I don't want to waste a second, you know, um, on bullshit. I just don't, you know. I can't believe I'm making it in fishing. Like, I can't believe that the business is working. That people want to fish. They want guiding. They want the lures. They want the lures and building. Now, in fairness, I didn't design this lure, but I felt it had to be made because it's such a good lure. I mean, it's hard to pick up on the subtlety of the colour in that. See if we can get the camera to focus. But that's what we call a laminate. So it's clear on the top, and I've given it a dark belly. Now, usually, right, they do it the other way around. But I got to thinking, well, hang on a second. Like, mostly it's got, there it is, there, now you can see it, right? So it's two colours. It's what I call the pink lady, right? Inspired by the Dulo stick, right? Now the next iteration, I'm gonna make this top half, right, a good deal pinker, right? I'm gonna use fluoro pink and keep this bottom half clear, so you've got a much clearer delineation between the two colours, because I do believe that does actually add to the fishability of the lure, right, to the catch rate. But why I went with the dark on the bottom is that that's what the fish see, like, more than anything. Now, not so much with these guys, I suppose, because you're fishing them on, well, I'm fishing them on a BKK Armor Point, which is a very clever hook from BKK. One, it sits just perfectly along the belly, right? And two, it's got like 1.5 grams, I think it is, of tungsten in the nose. And you just push the lure on, and there are two little spigots that pop out and grip the lure, right? And it adds to the lure, the life of the lure, the longevity, and it just gives them a beautiful action. Like, yeah, I'll record some action this morning with the GoPro. I now have a new handle that should allow me to do that or whatever. So everything is going along just really incredibly well. Like, I want to show you something. So this is the Major Craft Ely in two halves, right? So I've broken the body on it, right? I stood on it by accident, right? Now, they haven't brought out the replacement bodies yet, but all is not lost. I mean, like, okay, so that's gone. I'll just throw that into the pot and remelt it. But that's perfectly good jig head, right? So I'll be able to reuse that for all sorts of stuff. I mean, like, for example, if we took a haze down, I now have a 22 gram sand eel that I can throw way out into the rip, right? So we have a spot where a lagoon empties out onto a huge big beach, right? And what happens is the bass fall out, and when there's lots of bait around, as there will be this week, they stack up in the rip, right? So you get this backwash forms, and the bass hide down underneath it, right? And literally just pick off stuff as it gets washed by. I mean, I've seen it out there days. Literally, it's like something you see on David Attenborough, where I've been stood up on the rock or above the rock up in the field, watching down with the binoculars, and there are just gannets dive bombing it. Next thing you'll see a dolphin come up through it. Like, it's just phenomenal. And the other thing that's not really selling are the metal lures I brought in, which I can't believe. The metal addicts from Little Jack. I mean, they're a thing of beauty, you know. I mean, compared to a Savage Gear Seeker, like Savage Gear Seeker works, but it's a bit rough, like, you know what I mean? It's like just cast and retrieve. You know, I get bored out of my mind doing that. I really do. Okay, so they're really handy when the fish are on the feed and there's a bunch of big fish in front of you. Yeah, then they're and I'm not saying they're not a good lure and they don't catch fish, because they are a good lure and they do catch a hell of a lot of fish. And I have fished them, and I fished them in a variety of ways, right? I fished them vertically, I fished them on the beach, I fished them in the channels, I've run them along the bottom of the channel and had fish on them. I've done all sorts with them. So I'm not being disparaging of Savage Gear in any way whatsoever. But what I do think, I think what's missing is something small, right? Small and castable. That is the challenge, right? So how do you get something like a Senko worm, for example, that will cast, right? So everybody's forgotten about how effective the Senko worm is, right? But Senko's absolutely killer bait. Like, I mean, at night time on the open beach, the bass will come right tight to the shore. If you watch what happens as the dusk falls, right, what you see is all the bait, you see all the crabs and everything, they start to try and get out of the water, right, and bury in the sand and hide in the rock pools and because they know the bass are coming, like, and they know they're about, like, they're under threat, right, so they're trying to protect themselves. So the bass will swim, I mean, right in tight. Like, you know, I've been out, like, wading spots and casting, and on my way back in I've spooked a massive fish, and I thought, oh geez, why didn't I cast behind me, you know? Do it all the time, right? So now I try and religiously say, okay, before you do anything, fish the water that's in front of you, and fish it down the way, fish it down this way, fish it out in front of you. So 180 degrees, fish all that water before you do any wading, right? That fish I had last week was in 2 foot of water. I got down onto a beach mark, and at low water it's quite shallow, it has some deep holes, but it almost totally dries out, and I literally the tide was still pulling off this reef, and I waded onto the reef, right, and cast this egg claw, and I was just working it back, and I came back with weed on. I was like, oh, I'm not sure this is going to work. Well, I'll stick with it for a while, and then I thought, well, I'll just cast it and let it run in the tide. So I cast it, and I was letting it run in the tide and just giving it the odd twitch just to get it to tip along, right? And that worked a bit better. I had less weed, and then third cast, boff, up came this fish, right? Now, from now on, I'm going to bring a measure, because so many people say, oh, that's this and that's this and that's the other. Well, we'll see. I'll measure them from now on, because that just takes any argument out of it, right? If you've got a photo with a measure, there you go, right? And I'm not going to measure just length, I'm also going to measure girth, because like I've had a 69 that was close to 10 pounds. I've had a 75 that was 8 pounds. So length to weight conversion is not very accurate at all, right? It really isn't, you know. I would encourage people again to really consider, like for example, here's an old favourite of mine, right? Now this one is broken, right? You can see that, but it's 20 years old, right? So to that, look at the paint job after 20 years. Like, I mean, what a lure, right? So I think that lure will still fish if I just drop an assist off the middle one, which is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to put a single on the front, right? But I would encourage people to think about either crushing their barbs or removing some of the hooks or whatever, because if you see, like, say a Z claw. Now I have one here with hooks on. I do. So I'll never make any money in fishing. Do you know why? Because I have far too many fishing lures. I'll just end up surrounded by fishing lures and be absolutely destitute. There are millions of quids worth of fishing lures and nothing else. And rods and reels. Buying a Stella, by the way. Anybody any advice on a Stella, by the way? Now, let me tell you the story behind the Stella. I had a Stella before that I got off Mick in Jersey. Thank you, Mick. You're a gentleman. Mick's a great guy. He's just the best of the best, as our Michael. He really is an absolute gentleman. There are a couple of guys in fishing. Another one is Florian. Fishing Tackle Ireland. I mean, Florian is just such a nice fella. Like, he's just so easy to deal with. He's, you know, it's like night and day dealing with him and dealing with some other people. Like, he's just a lovely guy. But Mick in Jersey is the same. And an absolute blast. I mean, he'd have you laughing from one end of the day to the next, right? Now, he took a lot of stick on mine, you know, for no other reason than he was a tackle dealer, and he promoted lures that fellas were saying, oh, they're this, they're that, and, you know, the experts. But Jesus, I've lost my train of thought there. What was I going to say? Yeah, so yeah, I was talking about the Stella. Yeah, so I'm going to buy a Stella. Now, I want to go down to Spain. I am going down to Spain in November for a bit of fishing, for a break for myself. And I know they get some really big fish and some bluefish and barracuda and tunny. So I think I probably need a 4,000 size reel. I think realistically I do. So I'm looking at a 4,000 size Stella, because the last one I bought off Mick in Jersey, I mean, it lasted 10 years, you know, and at that point I wasn't great at looking after gear. I'm much better now, but then I was young and I didn't really care. But if you look at that lure there, right, that's the light whacker Z claw, right? It's one of my favorites. I mean, it's beautiful, right? It's just so lifelike, so realistic. But look how close together the trebles are, right? Now, oftentimes I get a bass that has munched that whole lure, right? Or he's hit this, right, and this will come round and hook him in the eye, right? So you've blinded a fish, right? If you take those trebles off, right, and put on assist singles, you just put a single on the middle and put an assist on the back. The lure fishes exactly the same, and if you stay tight in the fish, if it's a barbless single, you won't lose them, right? Now it takes a bit of skill. You've got to learn how to stay tight into fish anyway, right? Um, you won't lose them, and you'll do them a lot less damage. Because if you're like me and you're fishing catch and release, and you want to see, you know, bass fishing for the next generation, right? Um, I was telling you about Lennon. Lennon was on the phone to me last night. He's going fishing this morning, and he's absolutely delighted with the lures he's made up. I was going to charge him 100 quid, and then I thought, you know what? Just he's only a young fella. He doesn't have 100 quid, like, you know, like, let him have it. He can have it. Just throw him a few lures. Like, I have boxes of lures there that I never use, you know, just because I won't sell stuff I haven't tested, right? So I have to, when I buy a new product, I have to buy an extra pack and go and test them first, catch a fish, and say, all right, they catch fish, right? Um, so anything that's on the website, you can be sure I fished and I know all about how to fish and all the rest of it. In terms of guiding, I was talking to somebody the other day, and it's very interesting, right? But if you're coming for guiding, right, there are a couple of things to bear in mind. One is that there are some places I don't guide, right? Because I need somewhere to fish, right? That's not going to be chock-a-block full of people and all the rest of it. So I don't bring people there, right? Because that's where I go, right? You know, it'd be like bringing the office home. It'd be like working from home, right? And moving your office into the kitchen. Like, you know, it would just ruin things for me. But don't come on a guided fishing trip to catch big fish. Or think like, oh, see Pat Gallagher, he's caught big fish there last week. He'll catch us a big fish. We might, and there's a good chance, right? And I certainly do my level best to put you over fish, right? To put you in a spot where there are fish, right? And I won't be fishing, right? I will be making sure that everything is all right. The only time I'll make a cast is to show you how to work a specific lure, right? That's it. Because I'm not there to catch fish, right? I'm there to guide you, to pass on the information I have about bass fishing, right? And that includes wind, tide, weather, time of year, bait, right? Uh, Bait and what imitates that bait. Um, Other types of lures that get a reaction strike, right? So what's a reaction strike? So bass are quite aggressive, right? So if they feel their territory's been invaded, they'll, you know, have a bang at something, right? So sometimes if they're feeding, particularly, like I was on a beach in South Wexford one day, and the bass in the corner, all the weed had washed up in the corner, right? In a big storm, it was kelp and cabbage and all sorts, right? And it was rotting, and of course it was full of maggot, right? It was full of sand fly maggot, right? And on the high, it was a big high tide, and the maggot was starting to float on the surface of the water, and you could see the bass just coming in and scooping the maggots, right? Now, I had nothing in my box. I was like, what am I going to do? Like, how am I going to catch these fish, right? So I tried like a Z claw, tried like really small little lures. No, they weren't having it, right? So what I did eventually was I got a big feed 120 popper, and I threw it beyond them, and I just started to bang it, bang, 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 and sure enough, a beautiful 7 pound fish just came up and nailed it. And it didn't, it wasn't that I thought it was food. I don't think. I think it was pure aggression. It was just, what's this thing doing in our territory? You know, you're not one of the boys. Boom, and it gave it a good slap. You know, so there are all sorts of little tricks and nooks and crannies and all sorts you pick up on over the years that you can pass on when you're guiding, right? And the other thing is, come to enjoy yourself. Come to have a good day. You know, come to have the bit of crack and the bit of slagging, and you know, like like Jesus, we have right crack when we're fishing. You know, well, I do most of the time unless I'm fishing with the wrong people. You know, like it's such a relaxing and exciting. Like, how can something be relaxing and exciting at the same time? But it is, right? Like, when I'm thinking, when I'm out fishing, I'm not thinking about anything else. Like, I'm not thinking about paying a mortgage or feeding me pension or filling me tax forms or any of that, or you know, posting boxes or filling boxes or any. I'm not just. It's all gone. All I'm thinking about is the hunt. All I'm thinking about is where's the next bass, right? And I want to show you what I bought recently. So those are Oakley Holbrooks, right? They are the single most incredible pair of sunglasses I've ever bought. Now, before I had these, I had the Oakley Holbrook Blue Prism, right, which are made for offshore fishermen. But these are low light ones, and they are phenomenal. Like, you can see everything. Like, you can see the bass, you can see the bottom, you can see the crabs, you can see all the shrimp, right? You can see the sand eels. I mean, it's just fantastic. So most of my fishing at the moment is daytime fishing, right? So people who say, you know, you have to go at night to catch big bass, no, you don't. You can catch big bass in the daytime, you know. Now, can you catch big bass in the night time? Yes, you can. Do I catch big bass in the night time? Yes, I do. Oftentimes more bass than I catch in the daytime, definitely. Are they more confident? Yes, they are. They absolutely are. The darkness gives them confidence, right? The other thing is, right, sometimes bass get into a feeding pattern, right? So they may only be feeding at night, right? So you have to go at night. Like that fish now, for example, I got the other morning. I got just on the first of the light, and that was it then. I didn't see another fish for the next hour, and you know, I thought, right, that's it, pack it in, because you're flogging a dead horse and you'll ruin a really good experience. So I come on home and I showed the picture to the old fella, and he was gobsmacked. He's very funny. Jesus, he said, that's some fish. That's a big fish, son. Jesus Christ, Jesus. Oh. You know, it's gas. Like, you know, I waited 30 years for him to compliment me about something, right? But I was down in, I was down the local pub there about, about 6 months ago or something, picking him up, right? He plays a bit of bridge down there. And I was just saying hello to everybody, you know, we're a small little rural community, so everyone knows each other. And I was just saying how are you to everyone and how's it going, and someone came over to me and said, Jesus, that was some fish you caught. And I said, what fish? That big pike. Jesus, I've never seen a pike that big. And I said, where did you see the pike? He said, oh, your father was in here. He was showing everyone. I just thought it was lovely. I just thought he was in there, like, oh, look what back got, just lovely. I love my dad so much. As they get older, you love them more, you know, and as you get older, like, he's been so good to me, like, I love him so much. I just want to take care of him, and he's 89 now, and I can see him suffering a bit and struggling a bit, you know, but I just do my best to be there for him, you know. And he's delighted about the fishing and to see me well again, He saw me in bed for 3 years. I mean, who do you think was feeding me? Like, you know what I mean? So what goes around comes around, as they say. Karma, I'm a great believer in karma. I like a bit of the Indian mysticism. I do. I'm a meditator, right? I meditate, right? I do. For me head, to slow it down. And for the long COVID, right? Because it increases the plasticity of the frontal lobes of the brain, right? That's actually been proven, right? Through PET scans, etc. So if you meditate and you quiet the brain, you de-stress yourself, right? So one of the big things with COVID, long COVID, is stress, right? Stress related. Now, I still have terrible memory issues, and I have numerica. I can't remember things. I can't remember where I've left things. I lose my car keys and my wallet all the time. And, people say, oh, put them in the same place. But you have to be able to remember to put them in the same place. And I'm not able to remember to do that, right? So it doesn't work like that. It's not like there's a physical way. You can't fix a broken brain with a broken brain, right? It's either broken or it's not, right? And essentially what I have is a type of acquired brain injury. That's what happened to me. And I've accepted it, and I'm really happy. Like, it's just the happiest I've been in years. Like, so, I enjoy what I work at. I'm making a good living. I'm looking after my father, which I wanted to do. We're going to fix up the house a bit now. I live in an absolutely beautiful place, surrounded by sea bass, and I'm starting to make a bit of a success of myself again. I'm starting to get somewhere in the fishing world and put a bit of a stamp on things. I'm going to focus more on the guiding now than the lures. But I'll always have the lure shop up and running, right? And look at that now. Look at that. Isn't that just lovely? Pink lady. So I put the pink on the bottom, right? So normally they'd put the pink on the top, right? Like that. But I thought, no, why don't we put the pink on the bottom? Because if I'm fishing over a kelp bed or something, like, I don't want them to see the clear bit. I want them to see the pink bit. It's the bit that's going to make the most flash. But that probably is, well, I'm proud of that, right? It took me a long time to learn how to do that, to get that right. It was not easy, right? Shooting soft baits is not as simple as I'll just heat it up in the microwave and just inject it into a mold and leave it there for 5 minutes and come back. Not that easy. It takes a bit of doing. Thank God for YouTube and for the American guys. And the Americans are really enthusiastic, Oh, we're going to do this. It's very funny. But I've got a great guy who makes my molds. I think he's in South Carolina, which is on the bucket list, right? Have you seen those redfish? I'm going catching redfish, man. They are incredible looking. Like the big bull head on them. It's like, and the body on them is like, Imagine one of them on an injection. Little surface lure. Dig, 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 dig. Boom. Incredible. But one step at a time. The next trip is November. Spain. Bluefish. Albies. Barras. Bass. You name it. All sorts. And what will be going with me, I'll bring 2 crossdash and a 10 roux injection. The crossdash, the major craft, the 9-foot, is an awesome travel rod. Like, I absolutely mullad stripers with it. Like, you couldn't stop them, but you just let them run, right? Just dig in and let them run. I was fishing with Mark Dennis one night. I think it was the first night I fished with him. And he was hooking fish, you know, and I was getting nothing. And I said, do you mind me asking what lure are you using, you know? And he showed me he was using the old Savage Gear pencil, right? The 32 gram one that was discontinued for some reason, right? Like crazy, because it was the best pencil they had, like. And so I looked in the box and I said, if I got anything like that, pulled out a 120 needle, hooked it out, I let it sink to the bottom, and about 4 turns of the handle, I got hit so hard it nearly pulled the rod out of my hand, and the rod flattened. Now, anybody who's hooked a big fish will know what I'm talking about. It didn't bend from the tip, it flattened. It took nearly 200 meters of 30-pound ultimate fishing braid, and then pop, everything went slack. I was heartbroken. I was like, oh my god, that is the biggest fish I've ever hooked from the shore, and I lost it. And when I brought the lure back in, the back hook was straight, and I was like, why didn't you change the hooks? But then I had to give myself a break, because before I went to Canada, you know, I was still struggling to get out of bed, and I was probably suffering with a little bit of depression after being so long sick with COVID and etc. You know, I was a little bit upside down and stuff. I wasn't finding life very easy. I wasn't super hopeful about the future. I certainly wasn't anything like I am now, right? Like, if you look back through my videos, the amount of medication they had me on, you know, I mean, it was hard going. It was hard going. So anybody who has long COVID, by the way, who happens across these videos or is into fishing, right, drop me a line. You know, drop me a line and I'll help you out as much as I can, right? Because I know how much you're suffering. Like, I've never suffered so much in all my life. But yeah, that was some fish, Jesus Christ. But then I went another night, and you wouldn't believe it. The water was, I think we got southerly winds, right? The wind was at our back. We were fishing the North Shore, but it churned everything up, right? Rather than flattened out. Or did we get easterly wind? I actually think it was a crosswind. I think it was an easterly wind. And it churned everything up, and there was lovely surf running, but I mean, it was muck brown. Now, this is all sandstone, so you can imagine the colour. It was like beige, right? And I thought, geez, we're never going to catch in this, are we? And I got an old school Savage Gear paddle tail, and I cast it because it was the heaviest jig head I had. It was about 35 grams or something. And I cast it, and bang, straight away, fish on. What a fish. I mean, it was huge. Easily a 30-incher, right? And on a crossdash, like, I mean, that's not a big striped bass, but on our kit, it's a huge striped bass. To land it on a small little rod, like, it's a proper battle. And I was like, oh jeez, I've got to get a photo of this, right? And I had everything ready and just holding the fish, and it kicked like that, and I dropped it into the water before I could get a photo. I was like, oh my god, you're a fucking disaster. Look, I'm terrible with the camera. It's one gift that God didn't give me. He didn't. Like, if you look at my Instagram and stuff, the photos are hilarious, like, because they're all blurred and, all the wrong way around. And, oh, I'm awful. I just don't care about it really, I enjoy good photography. Like Henry Gilby is an excellent photographer. Like he really is. Like he makes the fish look very impressive, and he takes fantastic action shots. I love the shots of the rods bent and the waves breaking. And every time I look at a photo like that, I think of being on the coast or whatever, and it kind of gives me that little buzz. It's like, oh yeah, we're gonna get at it again. So he's coming over soon, so I'm looking forward to seeing him. He's an absolute gentleman, and he's done so much for bass fishing. You know, he's helped so many people, right? Um, you know, and people are like, oh, he's making money. It's a job, like you're meant to make money. I don't. Do electricians go around giving out about other electricians? I suppose they do. They probably do. Yeah. I know that lecturers that the university was absolutely toxic. Like. I mean, the people hated each other. you know, it was terrible. It was like, oh my god. And it got even worse during COVID. Like it was just so like, you know. I was lucky though. I worked for a great professor, Professor Sean O'Rian from the University of Maynooth. The man who helped me. He was my supervisor for my PhD. I am a doctor, by the way, doctor of political economy and sociology. Yeah, Sean helped me to get my PhD. He was an absolute gentleman. So I'm rambling now, so I'm going to stop. Um, but I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope my videos are helpful and that you get something out of them. I know you're going to enjoy fishing my lures because I'm absolutely certain that they work because I've caught lots of fish on them, right? Like, you've got a slit here, you got a slit here. I think we could do with a smaller version. Actually, there's a good question. Would you like to see a smaller version of the power slide? So, throw me a comment there. Okay, guys, that's it. I'm going to pull my waders on, drink a hot cup of coffee, and get on up the Copper Coast and see if I can find a fish. So, take it handy. Have a good one. Tight lines.